At 18, a young singer in New York hands a demo to the most powerful man in music and finds out success can feel like a locked door. Her voice soars to #1. Her world shrinks to one house with cameras, guards, and rules she never agreed to. Friends are screened, phone calls are whispered in a closet. A late-night intercom asks where she is and why. This is Mariah Carey before the butterfly. A teenager with a 5-octave range, a biracial girl who grew up dodging hate, now learning that fame can follow you from stage to kitchen. The man who promised a future starts to manage every breath. He says what to wear, what to sing, and who to trust.
I didn't feel like I could just put my foot down and have a tantrum and say, well, I want this song to come out, or I want this type of video, or I don't want to wear my hair curly tonight, or I don't want to wear a dress down to the floor and up to the neck, you know what I mean? It was like sort of, you know, I would fight, but I would always give in because it was easier than just having a constant battle.
She learns to smile on cue, then learns to hide an escape plan in plain sight. Our story traces the cage and the key, the mansion they called Sing Sing, the songs that pushed back, the love that sparked courage, the collapse of glitter, and the return that rewrote everything, the emancipation of Mimi. This is how freedom sounds now. Born on March 27, 1969, in Huntington, New York, to a black Venezuelan father and an Irish-American mother. Her biracial family endured harassment so severe that neighbors poisoned their dog and set the family car on fire.
Well, my brother and sister, because they're older and they kind of grew up more like in the 70s and late 60s, they had a lot of bad stuff. People blew up their cars and poisoned their dogs and stuff like that.
After her parents divorced when she was 3, she found comfort in singing. She copied her mother's opera exercises, excelled in arts classes, and by high school was writing songs.
I auditioned by singing one of the songs they wrote, and they hired me on the spot. So the sketchy guys began paying me to sing demos.
While classmates sat in homeroom, Mariah skipped classes to record demos as a session singer.
Back, Mariah.
Thank you very much.
Back. Nice to see you here.
Now, when I went to this school, I was on the honor roll.
Which role?
After graduation, she moved to New York City, working multiple jobs while chasing a dream that seemed out of reach.
Did you ever lose faith that
No.
things would happen for you?
No, I just always believed that it would happen because that's the only way to, realize your dreams.
The break came through Brenda K. Starr, a freestyle singer who took Mariah to industry events and advocated for her voice.
You remember when I first came to the audition?
I asked you, what are you doing? You said, you were real quiet. You excluded yourself from everywhere. And you were like, I'm listening to my tape.
Yeah.
And I said, what tape? You said, a couple of demos that I cut. I'm trying to get a record deal.
Right.
And I was like, can I hear? And I listened and I looked at you and I was like, why are you singing back up for me? And you were like, well, because, I got to pay my bills. And I was like, you should be like a huge star.
At one December 1988 party, 18-year-old Mariah clutched her demo while Tommy Mottola, the 40-year-old CEO of Sony's Columbia Records, stood across the room. The handoff took seconds. Mottola pocketed the tape and left for his limousine. In the car, legend says, he pressed play, heard the voice, and ordered his driver to turn back. Mariah had already slipped into the night. What followed was a frantic 2-week search through industry contacts. When Mottola finally found her, he signed her to Columbia in a bidding fight and positioned her as the label's top priority.
Okay, so when I got signed, we know I was very young, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know anything about the music business at all, except that I wanted to be a part of it.
What came next felt like a sprint. Studios, photo shoots, and rehearsals filled every day. She learned the rhythms of promotion and the grind of perfect takes. Her world expanded fast, but the circle around her narrowed to the people who ran it. The results were immediate. Her first 5 singles, 4 from the debut and the lead single from the second album, Vision of Love, Love Takes Time, Someday, I Don't Wanna Cry, and Emotions, all reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Critics compared her to Whitney Houston and Aretha Franklin. Grammy Awards followed. The former demo singer became a star. Behind that triumph sat an imbalance of power. Mottola was 21 years older, the boss of her label, and he began courting her soon after the contract ink dried. She was young and new to the business. He was a seasoned executive who held the keys to her career. She initially saw a guardian. He saw a protege to shape. After years of dating, Mariah married Tommy Mottola on June 5, 1993. The wedding was a $500,000 spectacle at St. Thomas Church in New York City, with guests like Barbra Streisand, Billy Joel, Ozzy Osbourne, Bruce Springsteen, and Robert De Niro, who served as Tommy's best man. Cameras captured the fairy tale pageantry. Mariah later said she hoped marriage might soften his control. Instead, it set the trap. They moved into a custom-built mansion on a 51-acre estate in Bedford, New York. Determined to keep some independence, Mariah contributed to building the estate, a vow born from watching her mother once get kicked out of a boyfriend's home. "No man would ever do that to me," she told herself. The irony was swift. She began calling the estate Sing Sing after the New York prison because it felt like one. The house functioned like a surveillance compound. Motion-sensitive cameras monitored rooms. Armed guards patrolled the grounds at all hours. On paper, this was security. In practice, it was control. Mariah could not leave without Tommy's say-so. Not for fast food, not to see friends, not for errands. To make a private call, she hid in her shoe closet, out of sight of the cameras. An intercom carried his voice through the mansion at any hour, asking where she was and what she was doing. Schedules were set for her. Rooms felt watched even when empty. Doors were objects to be cleared, not crossed. Silence carried rules no one had to say out loud. The message was always the same. Stay visible when told, stay invisible when told. Visitors sensed the tension. During one session, Mariah and rapper Da Brat slipped out for Burger King. When Tommy realized she had left the property, he panicked. Guards were dispatched. Staff ran through the house as if a prisoner had escaped. Da Brat stared in disbelief and said, "If you can't be free to go to Burger King when you want, you ain't got nothing. You need to get out of here." The message landed. Mariah lived with constant anxiety, never knowing what might set him off. Even small joys carried a risk. A joke at the wrong time, a late return from the studio, a phone that rang too long. Any spark could light the fuse. She learned to plan casual moments, such as missions, but then discovered that even these could be canceled without warning. Control reached into the music. From the start, Tommy pushed a polished pop image aimed at the broadest, whitest audience. Mariah's instincts, shaped by R&B and hip-hop, clashed with that plan. "From the moment Tommy signed me, he tried to wash the urban off of me," she later said. Songs were polished to fit adult contemporary radio. Even her appearance was policed. He discouraged straightening her natural curls because he thought it made her look too urban. The public saw a conservative balladeer, the perfect pop princess, beautiful, suitably chaste, and demure. Inside the house, the pressure built. At a dinner, a Sony executive asked what she thought of Sean Puffy Combs. Mariah praised him as the future. Tommy erupted, slammed his fist, and announced, "Thanksgiving is canceled." Later he sneered, "Puffy will be shining my shoes in 2 years." She spoke up, rarely, because challenging him usually brought more anger. To erase a sound is to erase a self. The narrower the lane, the smaller the life. Mariah wrote to keep a grip on who she was, and she recorded to push air into that tight space. The songs became the one place where she could argue without shouting. By 1995, she began pushing back in the music itself. She insisted on a fantasy remix with Old Dirty Bastard. He relented, unhappy about it. The record became a massive crossover, a landmark blend of pop and hip-hop. Still, he warned she was getting too urban. The emotional battering matched the creative fights. When her glam team compiled a scrapbook of fan letters and celebrity notes, including one from teen star Joey Lawrence, Tommy found it, tore it up, and burned it in the fireplace before she could see it. The fear could turn physical in an instant. As the marriage unraveled, Tommy and 2 male colleagues cornered Mariah at the dinner table. He picked up a butter knife, pressed the flat edge to her cheek, and dragged it along her throat. He didn't cut her, He didn't need to. The threat said the rest. She sat frozen while the men watched. It was the last show with her as the captive audience at Sing Sing. After that night, the stakes felt plain. If she stayed, the walls would close in. If she left, the fight would move to another field: contracts, radio, and charts. Either way, the decision would define her life. By 1996, the eggshells had become a minefield. A therapist warned Tommy that his grip would cost him his wife. He let her take acting classes. Mariah turned that small opening into a plan. She rented a secret apartment next door to her acting coach. After class, she would say she was too tired to drive back and would stay with the teacher, then slip into her own space. Her first quiet nights without cameras, guards, or intercoms. For the final stretch, they struck a cold arrangement: public appearances together, separate lives at home. During this uneasy stalemate, Mariah met Derek Jeter at an Armani after-party in late 1996. Both were biracial, both understood scrutiny. She later said it was the idea of him, freedom, a normal life, that was magnetic. Their discreet romance gave her courage. He was only the second man she had been intimate with. As whispers spread and Tommy's behavior frayed, she knew she had to move. The dinner table threat with the knife made the decision plain. Mariah hired a new lawyer and set an exit. She flew to the Dominican Republic, where mutual consent divorces could be finalized in days. By early 1997, she had broken from his personal control. In March 1998, the divorce became official. Professionally, he still ran Sony. As her contract neared its end, she pressed Sony's leadership for more creative control and made it clear she would not re-sign while Mottola remained in charge. In those days, the wins were quiet. A key from a superintendent, a packed overnight bag, a number memorized in case a call could not be placed from the house. Each small act made the next one possible. Freedom showed up in the music. In September 1997, Mariah released Butterfly. The title said everything. She embraced the hip-hop and R&B producers she'd long admired, including Sean Combs and Missy Elliott. The sound was warmer, more rhythmic, more her. The image followed: sensual, confident, self-directed. Most of all, the songs came without the old interference. "It's been a gradual process of gaining creative control," she told reporters. On Butterfly, the lyrics leaned toward independence, longing, and release. The arrangements left room for breath, ad-libs, and grit. The records felt lived in. Listeners heard a person stepping into the light and learning to stay there. Honey became her 12th number one, but the video carried a bolder statement. Mariah plays a captive agent held in a mansion. She outwits her captors, dives into a pool, and swims to freedom. The sets echo the Bedford estate. Shots through stair rail shadows suggest bars. Both Honey and the Butterfly video show her escaping grand houses. She was telling viewers that the cage had opened and she was gone. Fans treated the videos like messages. They paused frames, named the symbols, and cheered the escape. The work made the private story legible without the need for a press conference. Butterfly debuted at number one and drew praise as a peak in her catalog. Fans and critics finally heard an artist claim her voice in public. In a strange footnote, after she left and sold the Bedford property, the empty mansion burned in 1999 due to an electrical fire. The symbol was hard to miss. The chapter closed with ash where a gate had stood. The next fight waited in studios, on release calendars, and in boardrooms. With her Columbia contract finished in 1999, Mariah left Sony and Tommy's orbit. In 2001, she signed a record-setting $100 million multi-album deal with Virgin Records. The first project was ambitious, a film and soundtrack called Glitter, set in the 1980s club scene. It was an opportunity to showcase influences and try acting on a larger scale. Instead, it became the storm of her career. Mariah later described how plans from Glitter seemed to appear on a rival project at Sony. The most glaring case involved Loverboy. She had cleared a sample from Yellow Magic Orchestra's Firecracker. Soon after, Sony acted to secure the same sample, and a competing record using it arrived first. She rebuilt Loverboy at the last minute with a different sample from Cameo's Candy. A duet idea with Ja Rule surfaced elsewhere too. The tabloids framed a diva feud, but the deeper tale was an executive vendetta that played out in release schedules and studio bookings. Creative control had moved from a house to a label grid. Meetings, calls, and leaked plans shaped outcomes before a single note was heard. The cost was measured in lost time, lost momentum, and a story pushed off course. Meanwhile, the workload crushed her. She filmed by day and recorded by night, stacking 20-hour days without rest. In July 2001, she appeared on MTV's Total Request Live, pushing an ice cream cart onto the set and bantering in a way that confused viewers. She later said it was a stunt that misfired, not a breakdown. Within days, she posted troubled voice notes online, then removed them. By late July, she was hospitalized for extreme exhaustion. Fatigue became a public spectacle. Every shrug on camera looked like a signal. Every silence became a rumor. The pressure to perform collided with the human need to stop, and the clash played out in front of millions. Glitter's timing turned tragic. The soundtrack was released on September 11, 2001, and the film followed in the wake of the shock that gripped the country. Reviews were harsh, promotion was impossible, and sales sank. Early in 2002, Virgin paid out her contract, reportedly $50 million, to part ways. Headlines mocked her as a washout. She retreated to Capri to rest and rethink her path. In quiet rooms, she mapped what had worked and what had failed. She listed who listened when she spoke and who did not. A smaller deal with the right partners began to look like a way forward rather than a step down. In late 2002, Mariah signed with Island/Def Jam and launched her own imprint, Monarch Entertainment. The scale was smaller, but the trade-off was control. She eased back with Charm Bracelet. It wasn't a blockbuster, yet it proved she could still connect. The rebuild asked for patience. She trimmed noise from the process and kept the circle tight. Sessions felt calmer. The aim was steady. Write the best song today, then do it again tomorrow. Through 2004, she built a new sound with producers who trusted her instincts, especially Jermaine Dupri. The goal was simple: blend the hip-hop swagger she loved with the melodies that made her famous. The first single from the next project, It's Like That, nudged radio open again. The second single flung the door wide. We Belong Together became the centerpiece of the Emancipation of Mimi. It fused contemporary R&B production with one of her most aching melodies. The song dominated radio and charts, sitting at #1 for 14 weeks and later being named Billboard's Song of the Decade for the 2000s. Listeners heard the power of a voice that had fought to be free and found its lane again. As the record climbed, the narrative shifted. The cautionary tale turned into a testament. The same press that had counted her out now tracked every new milestone. The Emancipation of Mimi sold over 10 million copies worldwide, restoring her status. Critics, once skeptical, praised the scope of the comeback. She won 3 Grammy Awards and a stack of industry honors. Success became proof that freedom makes better art than control ever did. Mariah leaned into a lighter public self. She used her nickname Mimi, signaling a more direct connection to the person behind the hits. Interviews felt playful yet clear-eyed about the past. She built a team that respected boundaries and shared a clear vision. The artist who once hid in a closet to make calls now sets her own terms. The transformation was complete. Sustained success requires daily choices: what to sing, who to trust, when to rest. The comeback lasted because those choices stayed aligned with the person, not the image. Fans could feel the difference. Her catalog also reached new generations. All I Want for Christmas Is You, a song she had recorded years earlier, turned into a perennial holiday surge that crowned each winter season. The irony was tidy. Work from the era of control became the soundtrack of long-lasting independence. Each December, families would meet the song again, and another group of listeners would meet the artist behind it. The past continued to fund the future, and the circle remained intact. Today, Mariah Carey stands among music's giants, 19 #1 hits, more than any solo act except the Beatles. Time named her one of the world's most influential people, and the Songwriters Hall of Fame honored her craft. None of it felt certain during the Sing Sing years. In 2020, she released The Meaning of Mariah Carey, detailing the surveillance and control inside her marriage. The revelations made headlines and pushed a wider conversation about power in entertainment. Tommy Mottola acknowledged being too controlling while pointing to the career he helped build. Mariah let the record speak. Readers recognized familiar patterns: gaslighting, shifting rules, praise with a price. The book gave words to quiet rooms and offered a hand to those under pressure. Escape is possible. For fans, the arc is clear: early drive, locked doors, flight, a new voice, and a return to form. For newcomers, the music comes first, the story follows. Her voice made her famous. Her resolve made her lasting. Butterfly and the Emancipation of Mimi are chapters of liberation, proof of what happens when talent meets freedom. The meaning of Mariah Carey is simple to say and hard to live. Beat the odds, break the chains, and rise higher on your own terms. The once captive teenager became the author of her story. That transformation, from hostage to hero, may be her greatest hit of all. Her path reminds us that control can appear as care, and freedom often begins with small, stubborn acts. By telling the truth and choosing her sound, she transformed survival into a legacy, leaving a roadmap for anyone ready to claim their life at last.